begin with a roll call. Director Betty Doherty,
Here.
Director Donna McAleer,
Here.
Director Bob Lux is here, Director Dale Walker.
Here.
Very good. We have a quorum. We have an agenda. We will begin with the opening invocation and the pledges of allegiance. Okay. Heavenly Father, we come to you today as an assembled body. We humbly request that you bless our meeting, our community, and our nation. Help us to work diligently, always for and in the common good, and in the best interest of those who we have been elected to represent. Guide us to be insightful and prudent in our thoughts, visions, intentions, plans, deliberations, decisions, and their fulfillment. Work through us to provide a spirit of welcome to all in attendance, to engage in respectful and thoughtful dialogue and discussion with understanding, wisdom, and humility. If you wish, prior to reciting the pledges of allegiance, please take an additional moment of silent prayer or additional reflection in the manner of your preference. Thank you. Pledges of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Okay, do we have any comments from the public this morning? Okay, hearing none. Consider and act upon request for adjustments to or relief from the specific charges imposed by the district. Mr. Mooney? Good answer. Thank you, Ms. Scott. Okay, we're now through items 5 through 13, the consent agenda. Do we have any calls for clarification on the consent agenda? Brian, I believe that's yours.
I'll look on Bob.
Okay, if there's no questions regarding the consent agenda, I'd accept a motion to approve. I'll make a motion to approve as submitted. A second.
Second.
Move and second to receive the consent agenda as submitted. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. All righty. We are now at, I'm gonna, if it's okay, move the agenda item 15 to 14 and vice versa, 14 to 15, so that the presenters from the appraisal district can move on to other meetings that they have scheduled. I believe, Ms. Doyle? Is that? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Will be seated next to the right.
That is the,
Right back.
It's on page,
that's not this? Is that this? Yes, no? No? Yes? Okay.
Page 24.
24.
Clerk and Chief Appraiser Janet Jennings.
This one. See, that's got mine. I'm looking at.
25. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the board of directors that will be seated.
Right.
in-
Right.
next week.
Right.
Okay, just letting you know. Also,
There's no action required. This is just, okay.
do have a change in the Senate Bill too. Based on the number of board members, they're now going to be seated. The 5 that are already elected will be seated, and then there's 3 more that's going to be elected. And Janet and Arthur will go over that. In your packet, I also have that the amount that you're going to be paying, because $350,000 estimate on the election, okay? And if you don't use all of that, you will get a credit on your 4th quarter billing, okay? Which I have your,
Yeah, we're at 31,000, right? On page 39. Am I looking at the right?
yes, so your 31,000, and that's in quarter payments are 7,759. The 350,000 is an extra 661 plus. Yes, 661.52 is going to be added to that. Okay. And Janet and Arthur will go over the new Senate bill and how it's going to work. The county judge has control over, the election process.
Mhm.
And then the county will, have the election. That will look.
Well, President Board, it's great to be here. First of
Thank you,
all,
Arthur.
I want to thank you for the support in the special district election and the main election. I was able to get reelected to sit on the board for season 24 and 25. We'll get sworn in next week at our regular board meeting before it gets going. Also, I want to share with you, there's about 16 special districts in Montgomery County that really drive the quality of life and the advancement that we're continuing to see on growth and the contribution to the tax base and residents. And the MUDs and the Woodlands make up part of that 16. So we really appreciate that and appreciate what you guys do for the county and in particular for our residents in the Woodlands. Senate Bill 2, one of the main things about Senate Bill 2, it legislated that the appraisal district is responsible to run the election. And Janet's going to talk about a lot of specifics on the election, but to run the election for these 3 new additional board members that will make up a total of 9 members on the appraisal district. Whoever gets elected will be seated in July of 24, and that will complement out a 9-member board. In June, we prepare a draft budget that goes back to all the taxing units. So in June, the $350,000 for the election, that does not take into account if there's a runoff. That's just a regular election. The 3 get elected and then they get seated. We didn't have that number, so we couldn't come back in our original main budget to the taxing units. We didn't really have that number in September when we approved the main budget, but by the tax code, we have to come back to you on any supplemental. We don't have income. We don't have taxing ability to raise the 350,000. But what will take place if the election is less than 350,000, we'll provide a credit back to each taxing unit for their 4th quarter payment. If it's over 350,000, then we'll have to come back for a supplemental. But Janet Jennings Doyle, our chief appraiser, met with Susan Harvey, who's going to run the election for the appraisal district. That is her best estimate. That'll be our portion will be 350,000. We're going to join the county to run the election like the MUDs. So we're all going to be part of that one election, and this is our cost to be part of that. And we wanted to come and really explain that, how the supplementals work and why you're seeing a supplemental. We don't like supplementals. We don't like to come to taxing units while their budget year that you approve the budget is underway and say, well, here's an additional invoice. We don't like it as private people to get a surprise billing, and we don't like it as organizations, but we have to do this, and we're following the code, and we're following what Senate Bill 2 has legislated for us to run this election. So if there's any questions on the budgetary side, be more than happy to field them. Janet's going to go over the specifics on the election as she has met with Susan Harvey, the county election officer, a number of times on what the process is and how it will work. Janet?
Morning, Ms. Dahl.
Jeannie, hello, everyone. I sent Jeannie some information for you. I believe it's in your part of your packet for you to have, and it's just a little short, brief education on how this process is going to work. Senate Bill 2 indicates that appraisal districts with a population of 75,000 or more must have three elected officials now on the board. And but they never say who we're going to pay for those. So we learned after about their third session that the appraisal district will have to cover the costs, unfortunately. Because we are inexperienced in this area, we want to make sure that the election is held properly and all the steps are followed. So the appraisal district will be seeking a contract with the elections administrator of Susan Harvey, and she will be taking up on the responsibilities for us. Any candidate that is interested in running, it's not going to be to where the MUD districts have a choice to maybe appoint someone like you do with our regular election. Here, the candidates will have to run for the official seat. And they will have to, if they're interested, they will sign up with the county judge, and that will be from January the 17th until February the 16th. So it's a very short window. And in that, the judge has the responsibility of ensuring that the candidates qualify. They have to live within the county. Of course, they can't have any delinquent taxes and so forth. And I think they could have been an employee of the appraisal district in the preceding 3 years. However, the county had to put up a notice that we were going to be participating in the May election, and they were supposed to put that up on December the 18th. From my understanding, I know we did not receive a copy either. Would have liked to receive it, but as soon as I do get one, I'll share it with Jeannie and she can share it with you all. But we're going to be setting up a meeting with the county officials who are going to be handling this election, just to ensure that we are all on the same page. We are aware of what's going on, because the more we're aware, the more we can make you aware. And all of this is new for us, all of us. We're all in this together. So I want to make sure that we're fully transparent and providing you the most accurate information, especially when it comes to these bills. I guess the next step now is that we're going to sign a contract on the 25th with the elections officer for them to basically, handle all those proceedings. If you know of anyone that you would like to have run, and if they are looking to partner with the appraisal district and to help us do good in the community, please, talk to them. The filing fee is $400. Unfortunately, the candidates are not paid for sitting on the MCAT board. But they will eventually run them in staggered terms. So for this May election of 2024, we're going to elect 3, but every other even number year, we're going to run the election. So in 2026, we're going to run the election again. At that time, they're going to choose lots to decide who gets, staggered, whether position 1, 2, or 3. And so that was my question was, how do you know what position are they running for? Because if this, out of the 3, if this one seat is up, how do we know? So we need to put position numbers. So we're going to draw the lots after they are signed. We just kept it straight to where if the person who has received the most votes, they're the winner. We're trying to prevent a runoff election if possible. So we're just going to go with the most generic. The one who has the most points, that's who's going to be considered as the winner. But that's what we have. And so far as for other Senate bills, I got a chance to talk with Senator Creighton on yesterday. Him and I, now that he's home, and they finally finished up the long session, the longest session ever. But he's going to be now, him and I are going to be communicating on a quarterly basis, and I'm going to try to help get some bills that he can try to help get pushed that can help us, help us, in our appraising aspects as well. So I'm excited about that. We're going to start our town hall meetings once again this year. Arthur had a great idea that what we're looking to do something special for the water districts. So I'll let him and Jeannie get with you all on that one.
Ask you a couple questions.
Yes.
All of these 3 seats, they're at large? They're
Yes,
not
sir.
districted? Okay,
Yes, they are at large.
okay.
It's county only, right?
County only.
Countywide.
Right, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And the $400 filing fee, that is by the candidate to put up? Okay. Perhaps this is in your area of expertise, Brian, maybe Ms. Doyle, yours. Could because there's like Arthur is an elected official now, and perhaps some of the like board members here, would we run into the same conflict that we experienced with the LSGCD and Mr. Yours with an elected official being on 2 boards? Might this preclude Arthur's
My recollection is a little hazy. I thought there was something specific in the Lone Star groundwater.
I think you're right.
statute
I think it's specific to Lone Star.
Yeah, I think it's their statute. Yeah.
That is correct,
Mhm.
yes.
Outside of that, then you're back to main conflict issues, which is office of emolument, which is do they pay, which sounds like this position would not, so it wouldn't be 2 offices of emolument. Then you're down to common law conflicts of interest, and that's facts and circumstances. So I couldn't tell you off the top of my head if that would be an issue there. I mean, we have directors appointed that are usually appointed positions, but as elected positions, I couldn't say off the top of my head.
But you will continue to nominate. That is not going away. The taxing jurisdiction will still be appointing 5 members to the board. So that portion of the election will stay the same. The only difference it'll be as to in 2026, they're going to start serving staggered terms at that time. But as of right now,
Appointed and the elected?
yeah,
Okay.
you're going to have 5 appointed,
Okay.
kind of like what we're doing now. Only thing we're doing is adding 3 elected for this year. So you will still be able to do that process.
Until this occurs, Brian, there's potentially a different set of rules for the elected as opposed to the appointed?
Yes, Lord.
There are.
Right now,
Okay.
the appointed is in chapter property tax code, section 6.03. And that dictates how the directors are appointed. You follow that. And so far as the election, we're looking, because it's an odd number year, we're looking for, they're gonna probably be adding that amendment for the elected officials now to be under that same section.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry. Yes,
That's
ma'am.
okay.
Are they migrating to everyone being elected after maybe, 6 years go by, like every 2 years?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They will be having limited terms that they can serve. And I think that was the purpose of the staggered terms. Right now, we don't have them because all of our appointed 5 all at the same time. Made our life easy because we don't have to worry about the election every year. But now where it's going to be going, it's making our jobs even more administratively because now we're going to be having the election after 2026 every year.
So then
someone.
eventually all board members will be elected.
That is correct. Well, no.
Okay,
That's not what we want.
just the
That's what the
3.
law- That's what
That's
the
not
new,
what we
unless
want.
they change the law, right?
Well, no,
Yeah.
the law has changed to just the 3. And that came way back in the day with, I don't know if you ever heard of Wayne Pipito. If not, look it up. That's one of the reasons why that bill was created. And it was to limit political influence when it comes to appraising. And it was very interesting. I think this was just a compromise because y'all know for years they've been trying to have the chief appraiser to be an elected position. What do you think you're going to run on? We lower the values. But again, that's not what we do because politics not supposed to be a part in appraising. Appraising is supposed to be fair and equitable appraisal without the political restraints. But I think that we're going back and forth so much between that and elected officials. I think they just settled with, okay, we'll get 3 elected officials. Who knows? We'll see. But hopefully that does not come to the point where everybody's elected. No, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir, Mr. Fredo.
Just
On Monday, Senator Creighton came back to the community and he was in a meeting. And we got a briefing on a lot of different things that took place during the special sessions and the regular session. I was able to ask him a question. I says, you have provided a mandate for the CADs to run elections, but yet you didn't fund us. You had a tremendous surplus. What we learned in his answer are two things. One, he wants the financial numbers on what it's gonna cost to run this. So his office can look at it. Maybe something can be done to get some funds. We don't know that. They also advised that the governor's office has some kind of funding mechanism for elections. Now, we don't know what that means. We're gonna investigate that. But if there's funding available, we're gonna try to find it and see if we can bring it into the CAD to defer some of these costs. We don't know if it's gonna work, but at least we wanted to ask that question. Why have us do something and not provide funds? I think it's important, if you're gonna have organizations do things, provide the funding. That's the real thing. We wanted to share that, brought that to his attention. But he thought it was a good question, and stay tuned, we'll see what the answer is. So thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, sir. Any further questions, discussions on this matter? Hearing none, move to former agenda item 14. Review and consider approval for the district's fiscal 2022-2023 draft audit report. John, good afternoon.
Apologizing for asking. Excuse me, if you wanted to move me up on the agenda, not back, no problem. I don't think it's necessary.
Well, you hooked yourself when you said, I'm okay either way.
So yes, I'm here to answer any questions, but I'm happy to go through the report. Maybe talk about the major sections of the report, or kind of help anybody understand what we're trying to accomplish with this report. Our goal is to get it filed with the PPQ in mid-February. So we're hoping for approval today, contingent upon any changes that your attorney or y'all may have related to it. Good year. Your county department did a great job and made our job easy, and we're happy to be of service.
When we did the one for the Board of Trustees, there were a number of minor adjustments. Were they the same categories for our MUD audits?
No.
They were not, okay.
What will happen, I'm sure Brian Stroud will get through and do a very detailed review like Paul does for the WWA, and then we'll do a final review as well. And we may have a typo or a wording improvement, but anything significant, obviously we're gonna come back to y'all, but I doubt that we will have anything.
Unless there's no need, I'd again appreciate a thorough go through, John, on your part of letting us know
We will.
right now.
And Sports Page does a great job of beating them up as well.
Are you gonna do that now? I mean, to guide us through? Yeah. Does the board feel that that's helpful?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Major section of this report, and I'm going to do is turn to the table of contents.
Yes, I think.
Help you out. We can.
Oh, I don't have it. Thank you.
That's right here.
Of course, the first two pages are opinion, it's a clean opinion, unqualified, which is what you want. Then we go into a management discussion and analysis on pages 3 through 8. We kind of use a boilerplate, but that is where that is the place where the board's opportunity to highlight anything they'd like to say. It's kind of the freestyle part of this report. So if the board has any ideas that they'd like to share with the reader, that's where we want to put them. And then we go into the basic financial statements and the notes of the financial statements, which follow accordance with GAAP and so forth. We have what we call required supplementary information, which is your budget to actual. That's on page 34. And then we have what TCEQ requires, the Texas supplementary information, Article 36 to 49. Those are the major components of the report. Every MUD in the state of Texas complies with this for the most part. And with that, I guess if there's any specific section you'd like me to cover, maybe talk about the numbers, I'm happy to do that as well.
Had a minor correction, really. But it's the only thing that jumped off my page. On page 49, Mr. Stinson is a resident of the district.
No, perfect.
Oh, you are correct. Sorry, but of the district, not our district. Sorry, you're correct. I'm wrong. Thank you, Eric.
These, for years and years and years, all the way up to 2005, we reported your financial statements on what we call fund accounting. And in
You're on what page?
fund,
Mhm.
F-U-N-D, and in the AICPA's infinite wisdom, they wanted you to report also as if you were a for-profit entity. So since 2005, if you look at our financial statements, you'll see the funds.
Page.
Yeah, I think
Oh, I'm
it's
sorry,
10.
page 10, 11, 12, and 13. You'll see the funds that we've been reporting historically, general fund and debt service fund in the case of this MUD, on the total. And then we actually adjust it to make it look like it's a for-profit entity. We add debt and so forth. And so your total net position of the district in terms of statement of net position, which is not the fund accounting, is 21,324,000. Your total fund balance, which is the historical way we used to look at the district, and I think the way you continue to look at the district, is 3.266 million. So a considerable difference. That is,
Why is there such discrepancy?
90% of it is your capacity rights. We don't depreciate your capacity rights. The purchase capacity rights from the SGRA, which in your case is 15,738,000, is a Mike Page way back when in 2005 decided that those capacity rights would live in forever, and so we didn't appreciate it. So that's where we've stood ever since.
Very good. That did look excessive at 21 million, but
Yeah.
3.2 is a little,
What happened with most MUDs is their capital assets under that government-wide accounting, their capital assets depreciate relatively similarly to your debt decreasing. So there's not a lot of difference between fund balance and net position, but in the case of the Woodlands MUDs and the significant amounts of capacity they purchased over the years, there is a big difference between net position and fund balance.
anything else, John? Brian, is there, now you're going to, what's our action?
Yeah, so our firm goes through as usual for, we go through the notes and what have you. I mean, we'll go through the detailed, looking at journal entries and what have you, but from a legal, perspective, to make sure that it reflects contracts and what have you accurately. Also staff, looks at it as well, and directors who have more of an expertise in accounting, various MUDs will go through it in whatever detail. So generally, the motion that's taken on the audit each year is to approve the audit subject to any comments that may be provided by consultant staff or directors, and authorize the audit to be filed with the TCEQ by the 135-day deadline that's set by the water treasurer.
That's what I was getting at. We need to do this, but not today.
Correct.
135 days. Okay, so you've got,
Our goal will be to kind of let them sit and simmer for a while, and then right about in the beginning of February, we'll start gathering any comments that were made and start finalizing.
okay.
So it gives everybody a couple of weeks to look it over a cup of coffee. If they have any comments, just call us.
So, I'll make a motion just to make it hopefully easy. We will approve this draft report subject to the approval of
But he's,
Law, whatever he said, whatever he said. Let the record show whatever he said. Yes.
Consultant, staff, and director. comments.
Consultant, staff, and director comments. Okay. That's the motion. Second?
I'll second that motion.
Second to that motion and second. Any further discussion on that? We have no further discussion. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you, John. And you'll be back in February with those, and if any member of the board has any, questions or wants further, explanation, I assume to, contact Maureen and or Eric.
Yeah, we provide our comments directly to the auditor to get those incorporated as we do for all our districts. So if there's something that is significant that I can explain, I can come back after that.
Okay.
If we had to do that, or that
You'd like to take that path, don't contact you, let the numbers go to Maureen.
correct.
And or
Directors
Eric.
have comments, they should go to Eric and he'll get them back to
Okay.
the auditor and then we'll.
If you have any, that's the path. Okay.
okay.
Very good. Thank you all. Agenda item 16, grant exemptions from taxation for 2024 and the adoption of a resolution in connection therewith. Pages 41 and 42.
This is a resolution based on district's exemptions that were adopted last year. Summary here.
It's on page 41, Gina.
I've got a summary of all of them, but so this district, we, like all the other districts, have adopted it for 20% over 65. I'm sorry. And then for the other exemptions at 30,000. So that varies. The over 65 and disabled, if you adopt it, you've got flexibility there. I think it's like a $3,000 minimum, but most of the ones that go above that, y'all are at the high end. I think there's only one district that may have $500 more of a exemption for over 65 and disabled than what y'all have.
Who was absent? Oh,
So if you'd like to consider making a change to what you did last year, we can have that discussion.
So we can go higher?
You can. You can. Now, the exemptions that are set now will be reflected in the certified and taxable values that you'll see in August of this year. And so it will go into what you have to levy for your tax rate later this year. So if there is interest in revisiting that, again, y'all are at the very high end in the Woodlands for this exemption. But if you were considering going above that, my suggestion would be that you give Adam and Jeannie the chance to run numbers to see what impact that would have on your tax base and your revenue, because essentially you're just making all the rest of the taxpayers subsidize that. And maybe it's nominal and it's not material, but if it is, you want to know on the front end that you may have to do something on your tax rate later in the year, and you don't want to be in a position of having to raise your tax rate because you granted a lot higher.
The appraisals are rising anyways.
Appraisals are wise.
So even if we increase the exemptions, it may be offset by increase in appraisal values.
Potentially, and again, we won't see the appraised values for 24, which is what these exemptions would apply to. We won't see those values until August. So I don't think it's an unreasonable assumption to think that values will rise again in 24, but just keep in mind that is an assumption. We won't know for sure what those values are until we get the certifieds later this year.
Okay, so can Jeannie and Maureen run some numbers for us? Then if we go a little bit higher?
Yeah, you're at 30,000 for over 65 and disabled right now.
Right,
Your homestead exemption is at 20%, so that's the highest you can go.
okay, so we can't go any higher on
Correct.
that
I mean,
anyways.
not for homestead.
It's just the
Okay.
over 65 and disabled.
And we're at the top end, as you said, on the
Yes.
30.
Okay.
That's what I thought we were, yeah.
Yes.
But you say we can go
Legally, you
slight,
can go higher, yes. So my suggestion is if y'all want to consider higher, and again, y'all need to have that discussion, but if you do, then give Jeannie and Adam the opportunity to run it in maybe $2,500 increments. You know, if you went to 32.5 or 35, y'all, it's at y'all's discretion. If you want smaller increments, you can do that, but just to see what amount of tax revenue you're losing with each incremental increase, and then how much a penny of tax revenue generates based on last year's certified. So you can see, am I giving up a quarter penny? Am I giving up a tenth of a penny? What am I giving up for every incremental increase in over 65 or disabled? Does that make sense?
okay?
When does this have to be enacted?
It's March, yes.
Okay, so-
Early to give you
So you
time.
might want to run some numbers just in case.
Do you have something in mind as far as how much you're thinking of?
If you went up
many?
another 5,000, is that too much? 35,000 instead of 30,000? Is that pretty steep?
In terms of what you would be over the rest of the.
We increased this last year, as I remember,
We
right?
did
I believe you did, yes.
And what was it before we increased it? Wasn't it
20,000.
Mike's idea?
I'm sorry.
Wasn't it Mike's idea to raise it?
Yes, I think so. We'd have to go back and look at our note.
Well, blame it on him because he's not here.
He's
That'll
not
be
here.
a 16.6% increase in your exemption if you went from.
Oh.
Say again, please.
It would be a 16.7% increase in the exemption if you went up from 30 to 35.
So what about going to 32,000? That's not that much.
Yeah, we could run. That's numbers. $1,000 increments.
It's just for the disabled and over 65.
That is correct.
You already $1,000 increments, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35.
What do you think, Adam?
Be
I
great.
mean, does it
Is that too
seem to
hard?
be not going off the deep end? But you'll let the numbers talk, right?
I mean, you guys are a large district.
Yes, we are.
So depending on how many people file will be the impact. I mean, we see districts, with no exemption. There are some that go up to 100. Now, the ones that are up to 100 can't lower their tax rate the way you guys have because they're offsetting it, but it depends on the overall tax base. But I can run $1,000 increments.
Yeah, I think so.
Five, what do you think? Five, up,
What do you think, Dale?
Do we know how many people this affects?
That's what the numbers will
Yeah.
show. So
That's what I was wondering. What is the total population?
Correct.
What percentage does this affect?
That's what their analysis will show. They'll say how many people qualify and therefore. it's
Do we-
$1,000.
Gives us an idea of how that affects.
Do we remember what it was for 2023? About how much it affected?
I know. No.
Jeannie's diligently scurrying her records here for a second. She'll be there.
Oh, it could change.
She's got it there somewhere, I know.
Between over 65 and disabled.
That's not that many
How many did you?
1,200.
in our district, in our district.
And our total population,
25%.
yeah, that's what I was curious. And there's that's a sizable percentage of the total population.
That's based on the most
That
recent.
many, we got 43.
Because the village is more established and longer lived than maybe some others, not as many.
Yeah.
People.
You said 1,200,
In and out.
1,200, Jeannie? 12,
About 12,
About
4,300.
47, wasn't it?
47.
4708.
Did you say 4708?
No, I said, oh. What did I say?
I don't know. if
It was 4,000
Yeah.
something.
Last thing I saw. Okay, I thought it was 43. He's gonna do the math.
At this
For dance.
Call blocker works after it rings.
Ah, there you go. I wanna get that.
I just.
Nobody was calling me.
I hate to bring up,
Well, they're not calling me, believe me.
I hate to bring up the obvious, but is there any question? Because I would submit that all of us are in that OA category.
I'm mostly concerned about appraisal rates have been rising dramatically and drastically.
Well, I
I
mean,
think
it could
we're-
be
I think
perceived
where
as
she's
being
going is-
self-serving.
Yeah, because of our ages.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a policy decision. That's a policy decision by the board. It doesn't matter. whether
It doesn't
the board
matter.
is made for 25-year-olds or 80-year-olds. It's a policy decision by the board.
That's a good question, though.
Well, people are looking for things to not be happy about.
Well, we're seasoned citizens, we're not senior citizens.
Seasoned, I like that. Well, the law is,
Speak for
if you
yourself.
read it, it's old age. I thought that is so tacky.
Remember, seasoned, we are seasoned.
Rush Limbaugh.
What insensitive person like that? Some whippersnapper.
Okay, so this report will be generated concurrently between the two, and will it be delivered to us independently, like as soon as it's completed and reviewed?
It can be included.
Yeah, yeah, so that we can kind of think about it and then talk about it and vote on it next time. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Adam. Okay. Consider appointment of new director to fill the appointments.
We just kept that on the agenda, so you know how y'all wanted to handle that
Okay.
at this point. Just kept that as a placeholder
Okay.
discussion.
I don't believe there's any need for that. We can defer that.
Who wants to keep it on the agenda?
I think doesn't cost much to keep it on. I don't know if it's gonna affect anything. Can't speak on behalf of the board, but I don't. This part of the board, 25% of the board doesn't. Care to respond? Any?
Is there anything in the, the rules of procedure that we need to take care of that we can't operate with four?
Not if you disagree, 2-2. I don't anticipate any problems.
3 directors that can. meet.
We have a quorum with
Mhm.
3.
Winston Churchill said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all others. So I think we have an opportunity coming in this year for elections.
Okay, so we can either defer or eliminate. What do you think? Eliminate? Well, Eddie, eliminate?
Just for the record, I think we need to leave it on there.
Okay.
Don't we?
Okay. Here we go.
And that's just my idea.
As I said a moment ago, I don't see that, I appreciate your position, Dale, but I don't see that it's gonna change anything. So why don't we just leave it on just for full time sake? I don't know. I mean, we can defer it each month. It's only, as you said, a couple of months that we have to.
Mhm.
It's one more month of
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, that being as that is deferred,
Mhm.
moving to agenda item 18, receive the regular monthly SJRA Woodlands Division report, including updates in operations, projects, and public outreach. There he is, Mr. Meeks. You were hiding in the corner there.
Couple items. First is that the final report for the wastewater strategic plan will be out to y'all by the end of the month. So we'll put it on Google Drive and then y'all can just pull it from there. It's about 200 pages, so we don't want to be printing a bunch of them. The other item is, we had talked about at the trustees in last month presenting the draft supplemental agreement for the wastewater strategic plan. That is what is in front of you this morning. We understand this is going to change over time, but wanted to get it in front of y'all so y'all can see the draft of it. Just in case there's anything y'all want to read through and cut out or add to it.
This?
It is this.
Okay.
We've got 2 of them. Do you not have one maybe that's
I'm sure I
the
do.
same thing?
I'm sure I do. I was thinking about something else. Will we be notified when that report that you referenced, that 200 pager, will be on the Google Drive? If we're not, could we be, please? Just so that we know that it's there, and thank you.
And so I just happen to have two copies. There's not a reason for me to, these aren't two separate
That's 'cause
things,
you're-
you
No,
know?
there's probably one put for it.
Okay.
Because you're,
I'll put it here for the ghost.
This is the same structure as the last bond sale that the River Authority did in 2017. Just changed to reflect the replacement of a wastewater plant and the first bond sale, which is 35 million in proceeds and 5 million estimated for issuance costs, so about $40 million. Just a draft, not looking for a vote at this point in time, just want to get out there for y'all to start taking a look at it.
could you help me out a little bit? I saw the list of Exhibit A. You know, there's some high ticket items on there, and that's, I guess, that this is indicating that these are approaching, if not have reached the end of their useful life. Is that an exaggeration, or is that? Yes, sir.
That is everything that is high level considered wastewater treatment plant number 1. So that's just going down a little.
So it's not a condition analysis. Okay.
You mean by condition analysis?
If, you know, something's about to
Fail?
fail.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
It is merely, as you said, a list of key components within the wastewater treatment plant. Okay, thank you.
Is all we have unless you have any questions.
I had a general question. Now that we're coming out of the drought and we're into the teeth of what we'd call our winter, compared to previous droughts, have you found the maintenance and the breaks in the water lines are more frequent? Or have you noticed anything? I mean, I really appreciate all the graphs on the production, but on the repairs, have you noticed it's about the same as the previous droughts, like in 11?
It's about the same. 11, the thing with the droughts that we see is it's not when the drought occurs, it's
Right.
later when it rains.
Correct. That's what I'm wondering.
So we haven't got enough rain at this point to actually see if it's offset. But we are looking at about 1 leak a month on average. I'd have to dig back 2011 just to see what we did at that point, but I don't remember having that many breaks in 2011 versus now.
I've had several since it started raining in September or October, whenever it was. I can probably had a year now. So, it's the last week.
So about 1.5 a month or more.
And that's higher than previous reports from years ago.
Right, even in 2022, it's a little bit higher than 2022. That's swamp drought, so.
Are they clustering in certain areas or are they distributed widely across the surface area?
I think the last ones.
There was two on 242 and 2 or 3 down here in South Melbourne in the last 90 days.
You know, the reason I asked about
Kind of our cluster, a couple of them are clusters.
242, we've had those previously too.
Harper's Landing, we had one last week.
Mhm.
That was fixed Friday. That's the second one in 90 days, if that. South Melbourne, of course, there's been a couple of there. So
At least 2 for sure.
I think we had 2. I think you had 1.
Yeah, that's right. So 3 around the corner for the past, 2 in the past 30 days, 3 in the past. 60 days. Yeah. I think the 2 up off the Northway, 242,
242.
that was in August, July.
There were some during the drought,
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
There's one towards the end and one right after it started raining.
which makes sense because of the soil conditions and the I'll say rocks. When they dry out, they'll move. And then, like you said, yeah, then if you get the rain, then you're getting swelling, which is going to cause along any plane, we'll call it the heave. And you can't control that. Okay. And then just as another side note, going down to the recycling facility on Booty Road, and you go down past the Millstead there on the right, I saw these pipes and concrete is, whose are those?
Not ours. We don't go over that area.
Okay, somebody stored them over there.
Trying to remember who that, you know who the operator is or the mud off of Booty Road?
19?
Does it appear to be concrete pipe?
Yeah.
Maybe it's drainage pipe from the
Mhm.
county,
Okay.
from Commissioner
He
Noack,
has his shop over there. One of them.
perhaps, just.
Okay, I was just curious.
Because all their culverts are reinforced concrete, are they not? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not ours.
Okay. No, thank you. Appreciate that.
Did, I read somewhere that there was a tour of the facility, over on Sawdust Road that was gonna happen. And is that next week sometime?
It's the 23rd.
The 23rd, Tuesday, the 23rd at 9 o'clock, right?
Yes, ma'am.
No matter what the weather is. I just have to suck it up and show up, right?
You got it.
Okay.
I just need to make sure I have the head count to know if we
These
need
are
a
sewage plant operators. The weather doesn't factor into the decisions here.
You know, my genteel sensibilities didn't count.
Since I went to the last one last year, do you feel that I should go again?
Last year, was it just the wastewater plant or did it include other facilities?
We went one day to the wastewater plant on Sawdust and walked around everywhere. And then we went up to Lake Conroe for the dam, for the water treatment on another day.
So this time what we're doing next Tuesday is we're gonna start at the wastewater plant by just gather there, but then we're gonna go tour a water plant in the Woodlands, an elevated storage tank, a lift station.
Okay, so it's gonna be more.
Right, then end up at the wastewater plant at the end of it. That way, if there's more discussion with the replacement of the wastewater plant, we'll have more time.
Okay.
It was intended to cover the new directors from last year. And any that didn't get to go on the one year. The
Okay,
new directors from the year.
okay.
So not to say that anyone's not invited for sure, but we didn't get a bus this time. And so we're trying to keep it to the new directors. But if you want to do it,
Oh, so-
absolutely show up.
So it's 9 a.m.
So since
At the
January 23rd.
since I went last year, it's not, I didn't get to see a lift station, but other than that, just,
Come on if you want.
They're fascinating.
it depends how cold it is. What time. It's 9 o'clock.
You got it.
Section's not-
You got all.
Exactly.
You did the Sawdust building, the training room of the training. Okay.
We're there.
Uh-huh. Well, if there was ever a bus that was taken anywhere, y'all left me off the guest list. Yeah, 'cause I've been to the dam on my own,
Done.
devices. But I know there was no bus, so I'm pretty upset about that.
Mr. Meeks, that concludes your
That's all
report. All right, very good. Thank you so much, sir. Agenda item 19. Discuss potential funding alternatives related to the SJRA Woodlands Division proposed infrastructure projects. Really glad this is on there. Very key topic. It's good to know all the options that are available and give us guidance and direction as to how to proceed. You gonna lead this,
We'll
Eric?
kick it off.
Okay.
We wanted to start a conversation, as we've all learned last year with the 10-year plan, there's a lot of projects. We went through those projects at length last year with the AC and then this treatment plant. Those are the two big ones. But then there's more monies in the 10-year plan. I think it was 632 million overall. That covers AC, treatment plant, and then a few other things. As you start to look at what that might do to your, and currently the route that would be taken, and not that there's anything that's been decided, but the option before you through the supplemental agreement would be to have SJRA sell bonds for all the different projects, as the times proposed over the course of the next decade plus. And then identify the wholesale rate that would be needed to cover the debt on those bonds. And then that wholesale rate would come to the MUDs as a pass through to the customer. That's how you've done it on a lot of things in the past.
And these are revenue bonds.
Theirs would be yes.
Yes.
Yes, correct. When you start to look at what that might look like to the customer, opening up a water bill in upwards of, several $100s perhaps for the average water bill, that I've received input from many directors concerned about the look of that. Now, the flip side is, the projects need to be done. That expense will need to be covered somehow. And so that's one way to do it. Other ways to do it are related to your taxes. You can go on the revenue side or the tax side. So for instance, or the water and sewer rate versus the tax side. Another option would be to go before the voter bond election. And then that sets your bond authorization. However, that's a little cumbersome because if, as you can imagine, I think what was reported from SGRA was over the course of the life of all these projects over the next decade or so, you would have 6-7 bond apps. So imagine each district doing a set for each one of those. Instead of having 5 or 6 bond apps, you might have 60 bond apps across 10 MUDs. And that's not efficient, nor on the soft cost side, the issuance cost to do each one of those is also not efficient. But it puts it on the tax side. So instead of having a water bill that's, whatever it is, a couple $100, you would have it into your tax bill, whether you're escrowed or whether you pay at the end of the year. Third idea also would also be to go back to the voters and consider a rollback tax election. And what that would do now, presumably the bond authorization will have a tax increment increase to it on the debt service side. So still a debt versus going to the voters to get a rollback tax election for your M&O tax, which would raise your tax as the other one would. But in this case, you would still have SGRA sell the bonds, and then you would pay your portion of those back via the tax M&O tax revenue that would come in from the tax side. So from the consumer standpoint, it's not on the water bill, it's on the tax bill, and the taxes are still deductible. Water bills aren't. That's always been a selling point for some over the years. But anything I missed? Restated. So we wanted to open up that dialogue because all of the MUDs need to agree ideally in the same direction, ideally. On the tax side, if you were to go to the voters and get approved to reset your M&O tax rate at some additional level, then you could, work with appraisal creep to manage that back down like you have. I mean, this district was probably over $1 or so in the creation years, and you've been diligent to lower that tax rate as appraisals went up, and you would be kind of back up in that range and then be able to work through tax appraisal creep to manage it back down as fast as you can. It would also give you an opportunity to maybe even increase some revenues, bank up some money to be able to have some cash calls to pay back future bonds, perhaps as well. And what we would probably end up doing is identifying through capital improvement plan the WWA expenses that we're expecting on the infrastructure side too, which we haven't even talked about at length. So we would probably look to set a number that kind of covers all that, all the different projects.
Let me clarify that the tax how do I want to phrase this? The amount of tax on your MUD is it also, I don't want to get ahead of myself. It's deductible from the federal income tax. Okay. Now, are we provided like a 1099 or a W-2 or something so that we know how much this number is?
You're talking about the amount that you pay for property tax?
Right.
Well, no, you have your tax statement.
Right.
For your records.
So the homeowner, the taxpayer would have to be diligent enough in his preparation to know that he can take care of this. Perhaps we could,
The CVA would know if you use one. But if you're doing it your own, I don't know.
Yeah.
If TurboTax would trigger
Yeah.
you to
I
do
mean,
that.
it's not a difference to what folks are probably already doing already, if they itemize. Again, that's all assuming that someone itemizes, it doesn't take a standard
Right.
deduction. I don't want to dive too much into
right,
individual tax returns, but if they're itemizing, then historically they were able to deduct all, property tax from their primary. But with the Trump Tax Act that was.
There's less and less people that can itemize.
Well, there's less people who can itemize and you're capped out on the property tax. I think it's 10,000.
Correct. So getting it back on the itemization or that is less frequent.
But it's an option that
less frequent and less likely.
Is in the past, yes.
Okay.
But that that's not an option if you pay for it through
Monthly
Sure.
bill,
water bill.
through monthly water bill. Yeah.
So all this discussion is about trying to come up with what is the most efficient way for Woodlands customers to pay for this infrastructure. And Eric believed, and I agree, that it's a good idea to start this discussion of how to pay for it now, since the River Authority is coming to the MUDs and asking for consideration of the first tranche of what will be many tranches of bond issues. If we don't have a plan by the MUDs on how they're going to pay for it, it's going to be ad hoc and, not very organized. You could have, some of it doing through paying in some cash that they may have a little extra reserve, or doing a rate increase, and then another one's doing a tax increase or what have you. So to the extent we could have the discussion and try to have an organized approach for how we're going to do it, and thoughtful in what is the most efficient way, least amount of costs, bond issuance costs, bond application costs, various soft costs, but still get the maximum potential benefit. Of course, you can't know what every taxpayer does for how they handle their tax return, but give them the opportunity to avail themselves of an itemization. If, essentially what that does is have the federal government pay a pro rata share of your infrastructure cost or whatever your marginal rate is. So, to the extent we can do that for customers and taxpayers, great.
Mr. Cohen, do you have anything you want to add to this?
I mean, I think the bottom line is SJRA selling them is the most efficient way, because like Eric said, you end up with multiple issuances, and the smaller issuances have more soft costs associated with them.
More expensive.
And so SJRA has an A rating for the previous bonds that were sold for the Woodlands. So I think the larger issuance will be more efficient. Now, how the Woodlands proper, the 10 districts want to pay for it, that's the question. Whether it's through your rates, water and sewer rates, or if you want to include it on the tax side. It's a really good point in that people could potentially save up if it's on the tax side and pay it at the end of every year versus being forced to pay it monthly, but it's completely up to you on those two options. But I think it's the most efficient to have SJRA sell the bonds.
And if we're saying we either leave it like it is or look at other options, right? And if we have other options, then we have to have how many what's the number of MUDs we've all got to agree? How many of them?
There's no legal requirement that it's got to be a certain number that agree to go in one direction or another. I think it would help a lot with messaging to the community if we were able to be consistent, because having on one side of the street your water rate going up by $100, $200, and on the other side of the street your water rate's not going up, and maybe you've got a 2 or 3 cent, making up numbers, increase in your maintenance tax rate. Well, can you explain it? Yes. Is it a bit confusing? Yes. So to the extent we can make an effort to be consistent, we should, but it's not a legal requirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would it be helpful from a filing perspective to do it if we could get all 10 MUDs to go in one way?
Mhm.
Would that be beneficial or it would, or not, bond authorization in this manner or fashion?
Well, that was options I'm not sure that's the way to go, but, just because I don't think you want to go through that many bond applications. So you wouldn't actually be increasing your bond authorization. That could be part of it for some districts perhaps. But you would be resetting your imminent tax rate versus setting your bond authorization.
From the River Authority's perspective, I mean, I think y'all don't care as long as money comes in, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But it would be potentially, depending, who knows, if an individual MUD could vote to put it on monthly bills as a line item for perhaps system renewal, upgrade, maintenance, or what.
Sure. There's another kind of, again, this would all have to be kind of vetted out, but right now you have 2 districts out of the 10 that have different water and sewer rates than the other 8. Theoretically, if you go through that process of rollback, you could, to those 2 districts, they could decide to add another penny or to whatever it takes to drop their water and sewer rates back down with the rest of the 10. And then, because everybody's going to have a varying tax rate. They already do right now today, tax rate
But these would be voter elections, right, of the bonds?
of rollback, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and
So not, yeah, sorry, not of bonds. If you choose to go that route, you would go, if you go above 3.5% increase in your average tax bill, it's a mandatory rollback election. And so in order to get that additional M&O rate, you would have to go to the voters and that election would have to pass.
Mhm.
And so in that case, you would be able to, but if it failed, then you resort back to, you have to figure out a way in your water and sewer bill
Right.
to come up with the dollars.
And I have heard through public education and through some other board members as well, the idea that perhaps this question gets put before the voter, before the residents, before any vote happens, but as a survey type of thing through public outreach, through our channels and through the new PR firm and all that. Just to get an idea, what do you want? Do you want an average water bill that looks about like this, or do you want your tax bill to look like this? And those are the things that haven't been done. The analysis to identify those 2 different buckets or what the outcomes would look like, that would be what needs to be done next. So that the boards can kind of see, okay, this is what these types of numbers would look like from a water and sewer rate perspective and a tax rate perspective.
So you're saying there's 3 options currently, potentially, that are viable?
2 viable, I think.
Two and stay with what yours, the 3, right?
Third is cumbersome. I'll reorder them next time, but that second option is a little cumbersome.
We maybe get a report on this, of the 3 options, so
Yeah,
that we
I
can.
need a little
so
bit
that
more
we
in
can,
depth for me to
you know,
understand.
Yeah, there's really no decision to be made
No,
today.
but just to give full understanding so that we know how to process this information properly and maybe even get some straw polling on behalf of.
Yeah, what I thought might be
Residents.
helpful, and we need to talk in more detail, was kind of do some pro con and then do some financial analysis to identify, this is what this would look like, this is what this would look like, so that you kind of have it all right there.
That'd be great.
That'd be very helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
So at some point, probably over a year ago, the lawsuits, someone who maybe I don't even know if they knew what they were talking about, said something, we were standing outside a meeting, which is where all meetings happen. And someone said the lawsuits were going to cause the bond rating for SJRA to be compromised in some sort of way and to maybe not even be able to purchase the bonds. Is any of that in fact, or is it just people running their mouth?
So I think what you may be referring to is the GRP litigation.
Right, exactly.
And the issue of if the contracts, my understanding is if the contracts are broken and then these participants bail out, then the River Authority, the GRP division of the River Authority would go into default, and then that would leave Texas Water Development Board and therefore the state holding the bag on those bonds. So, which would of course damage the credit of the GRP division. Now, in theory, because these bond issues are siloed by division, what happens to the GRP division should not impact the Woodlands division and the credit rating of the Woodlands division, and therefore the interest rate that the Woodlands division could get on the bonds that we're talking about. All that's theoretical. We'll have to see how that would play out if it ever happened. I mean, hopefully it doesn't, but if it did, that's what's supposed to happen. You silo the bond issues. And so what happens in one silo shouldn't bleed over into another.
Okay.
But I can't speak for the credit agencies. We'd have to see how that ultimately played out. But I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The case you're referring to is the Supreme Court case,
Well, there's multiple cases.
Yeah.
So there's
Take your pick.
a case.
but then
that's-
there's the antitrust is the one down in federal court, right?
Correct.
Those are the only two that are being litigated at this time.
The case with Conroe on the rates and validity, the federal antitrust, and I don't know, I'm not keeping track of all those lawsuits.
I think there's four, but they're combined together. So those are the main two, the antitrust and one that's Supreme Court.
And that's been heard and it's into their
Appeal, isn't it?
their court, the Supreme Court doing their briefing and coming to decision, which isn't expected until like May or June.
Yeah, but I don't recall if that's actually a finality decision. They've had so many appeals, interlocutory appeals. I don't know that decision that you're referring to, it would be coming from the Supreme Court, would be definitive to wipe that piece of.
They could kick it back to the lower court. Yeah.
That's the one we just listened to the argument of.
Yeah, so that's not gonna be a finality decision.
Potentially, could be, but maybe not. It'll be appealed.
Sounds like-
perhaps.
It's not on the merits.
It's not on there.
Okay. Well.
It's
I
just
wondered if we had
7.5
that.
years. What the heck, you know? What's a few more years? Yeah, it's beyond me. I think, does that conclude our discussion on that matter, ladies and gentlemen? I'll say yes. Yeah, and we'll await that report, independent report, once it's constructed. Agenda item number 20, receive updated status of Bear Branch Panther Ranch Research Forest Drive project improvements. Mr. Hildebrand, is that yours?
We have received the draft report, feasibility report from LJA. Collectively, we've got a number of questions and things we'd like further clarification on from LJA for us to fully understand the results of that study. So we want to make sure those are addressed appropriately first, and then with coordination with Eric, we will figure out how that is rolled out to MUD 67 and the other stakeholder MUDs within that. So Eric, I don't know if you have anything on future schedule or when that may be coming, or anything else you want to add.
As soon as we get the report, we can go forward.
This will not affect the long-term constructability of the project. It's just the approach to the construction. This draft report, from LJA. I mean, the project's still going to be constructed, right? This is just a timeline or critical path to construction?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Good. Agenda item, thank you, Dan. Agenda item 21, receive the attorney's report. Brian?
Nothing that we don't separate agenda items.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Agenda item 22, director's election for May 2nd.
May 4th?
May 4th. Thank you. including memorandum regarding joint elections, blah, blah, blah. Pages 55 and 59 in our meeting packets. Brian,
Yep, so that one has to do with the upcoming director election we talked a little bit about already. So you recall in 20 and then also in 22, the Woodlands went joint with the county on that election, was holding it independently. We've got a memo there in the package, 59, that sets forth our recommendation firm-wide for our district clients in any county that is eligible to go joint, Sets out the various reasons for that in the memo. Did ask Cory to pull what our last cycle cost, and looks like for Mud 60, it was about 35,000. It varies by district depending on primarily how many early ballots by mail have to be sent out, and this cycle probably going to be busy because it's a presidential cycle.
Right.
And all the people who are going to be asking for ballots by mail for the primary, the Republican primary, and then the presidential election. So there's probably going to be a lot of.
But this shouldn't have anything to do with the March 5th primary, though.
Well, anyone who requests a ballot by mail for the year.
Gets it all year. Okay.
Correct. And so, in large interest election cycles, the number of ballots by mail that have to be sent out.
So all those that weren't planning on getting one for the May election are going to get
We're
one.
gonna get one. And that's
Okay.
a change several sessions ago. But it's not even, as you see in our memo, it's not even primarily cost related. It's just all the additional legal requirements to hold an independent election and the risk that districts would be taking of having the possibility of someone trying to contest your election because of a deficiency in how it's conducted is, in our opinion, not worth it for our district clients to take that risk.
is this an action item, Brian?
It is
Yeah.
to authorize notification to the county of the district's intent to participate.
So the motion would be to accept the recommendation of Swartz, Page, and Harding that the district contract with the county to participate in joint elections. Okay. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Motion.
I second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Brian?
And one more election item, 23, that's your supplemental agenda that has the items to call the election and appoint your general manager as the agent for the district. We don't need to take action on compensation because the county will do that as the party that will be conducting the election, but we do need to take action to adopt the order calling the election and also designating your general manager as the agent for the district to receive those applications.
Where is that,
I
Brian?
don't see that. I just see supplemental
Yeah, yeah,
agenda
yeah.
in English and Spanish
Yeah, that's what I saw too, Donna.
on 23,
Yes.
on our 23. It's right after.
Oh, that's what that page was. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Shelley. Yeah,
Where is it?
right here, this one here.
This one?
Yes, ma'am.
No,
No,
not this
not that
one.
one.
This one.
Oh, this,
This one. No, not
No,
this
it
one.
should be in the meeting packet. Or it was, I
In
thought
here?
it was.
You mean this?
It's got the seal on the bottom. And Eric's signature. This is it, Shelley? Yeah. Here's what it looks like, Donna.
I'm looking for that.
Okay. It should have come in your packet at the end.
No, it's at the end?
I
Okay.
thought so.
now that I'm looking, I think you're
Go
right.
ahead.
Mm.
Here,
Yeah,
after the agenda. Oh, after the agenda. Okay, so I changed the page? No? Where did you find yours? Yours is separate.
But it does have,
That's right.
it does have staples in there, so that would indicate to me that it was part of the,
I've seen
part of the,
it. I don't know where.
just trying to run it down is the issue, right?
Behind my covers here.
There it is.
First page. Oh, the very first page. He's just giving me.
There it is.
There it is. Never mind. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Take that back.
You got it, Dale?
Right here. No, I
Yeah,
got it
thank
now.
you.
Okay.
After the, yeah, we get some guidance there.
So let's see,
Okay, so this-
where were we?
But they had it folded under.
okay, Brian has to start over. I have to see where we are here.
All right, so there's two items on the supplemental agenda. This one has two components. That's the one we need to take action on.
Mhm.
We need to adopt the order calling the election, including the appointment of the agent for the district, which is Eric. And item number two, that does not require action because Montgomery County will set the compensation for the election
Right.
officials.
Okay. I'm gonna make sure and not do this in Spanish.
Go
Let's
ahead.
see, you think, huh?
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah, I can
see, they're already, good luck to Bob. So I'm trying to craft this motion, Brian, it would be, call the director's election to be held on May 4th. Determining the procedure for notice of same, adoption of an order in connection therewith. That first, just that, the motion would be that paragraph number 1.
Right.
Okay.
That we, or want Eric to be our
That's in
agent,
the order. Yep.
Where is it in that order?
right down at the bottom, like last.
Well, no, that's compensation. You
No,
said that's,
It's in the
right.
body of the.
oh, it is? Oh, okay,
Yeah, which is on the Google Drive, I believe.
okay. Do we, I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that motion.
Whatever that motion is, and, it's being seconded by,
Ready.
Director Doherty.
Mhm.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion on this matter? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you, Brian. Okay. We're done with that. Agenda item number 24, receive and act on the general manager's report.
All right, we've covered
Manager Peterson.
just about everything I had. I just wanted to point out in your report, a letter, from Jim Sensen thanking, the boards and trustees for, the nice reception, that we had, a couple weeks ago. So, in a long way, he really appreciated it. And then just wanted to point out that, the new general manager for SJ started yesterday, and, it was reported about an hour ago to me that the reception, there's going to be a reception at the Woodlands Division office on February 7th for all the directors to meet the new GM.
February
That'll
7th.
be
Is that
February-
here? You said,
The Woodlands Division office, SJ,
oh,
Stop.
yes, sorry.
at the treatment plant,
Okay,
from 5 to 6:30
okay, let me write this
on
down.
February 7th, 5 PM to 6:30.
6:30
Mhm.
at the Sawdust location.
What were the times again?
5 to 6:30.
2/7.
2/7, 5 to 6:30.
Okay,
At the Woodlands Division office there of Sawdust.
and what is the new manager's name again?
Aubrey Spear.
Aubrey Spear.
SPEAR.
And with that, I'll pass it over to John for Public Outreach and Public Education Committee.
Afternoon.
Afternoon, John.
Page 64 in your packet, you've got your communications report. First few pages, examples of current marketing pieces. But I want to skip, page 67, spend a little time on our 2020 survey. In September of 2022, we did a community-wide survey, the results of which informed our strategic plan for the following year. Now, we've just renewed that strategic plan. And we'll talk about that in just a second, but a lot of that comes from, again, information we've gleaned from these reports. So I want to go through some highlights from the report with you, and then talk about how that's informing our strategic plan. On the top right corner there of all those figures there, you'll see a QR code. You can see the whole report there, all the statistics, all the questions that were asked, and all the results. Again, I'm just going to hit some highlights here. So number one, where does your drinking water come from? The correct answer increased 24% over the previous survey. So
You're doing good.
yeah, they're doing better on their test. How much knowledge do you have regarding Woodlands Water Agency? Those who answered a lot or some, together that increased 15%. And the those that answered none or very little dropped 24%. 9 points. What's your opinion on Woodlands Water Agency? Favorability went up 17%, unfavorable went down 47%. And then as we move on to MUDs, how much knowledge do you have regarding your municipal utility district? The a lot plus some respondents increased 8%, and the very little respondents decreased 4 points, and roughly 8% as well. So knowledge is increasing on MUDs, as is opinion of MUDs. The favorability rating went up 20%. Unfavorable dropped 54%. How confident are you that water from the tap meets regulatory requirements? Extremely jumped 10% at 5 points. And the not very or not at all dropped 32%. So if you combine those two, not very or not at all, the sum of that is 6% of our respondents fell into that category. We put a lot of effort into our water bill this past year, redesigning aspects of it, and then doing a lot of education surrounding that, helping folks understand it. So those who said, do you understand your water bill? Or sorry, are the items on your monthly bill clearly explained? Yes, jumped 8%. Not very, dropped 25%. And then we did add a few new questions this round. We wanted to get a sense of where folks are at with infrastructure renewal and the need for that. 53.6% of respondents were either very aware or somewhat aware. And we added something in there regarding our customer service. Did you contact Woodlands Water? And if you did, were you satisfactorily, what was the response satisfactory? 88.3% saying yes. Well, folks feel good about the help they're getting here. So we improved on every front. That's really encouraging. This is not the end all be all of how we're doing. We look at how we're doing in multiple ways, and I'll continue to bring those other ways forward. But this is encouraging, and wanted to share that with you.
Kudos to you, John, because
Well,
you're the one that's putting all that out.
To everyone.
And, you know, it's improved a lot.
And to MUD directors for getting messages out and sharing what you're hearing with us. That really helps us a lot too. Thank you. On that note, we'll move on to the annual report. It's that time of year again. Last year, MUD 60 did a 2-pager. It was very well received. We sent that out as a bill stuffer and electronically. You had over a 60% open rate on your electronic submission, and you reached roughly 70% of your accounts with your paper bill. So my recommendation would be strongly consider doing that again, doing both. The digital's free. So that's simple. If you're going to do the print, might as well
That
do the
was my
digital.
understanding at the PEC meeting where I asked the question that we didn't need to be doing it It needs to be generated from y'all with information from us.
Right, so in your packet, I gave you last year's report. And some red numbers here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I guess you just have. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the backside. Betty, last year you were my contact, but I don't know if you want to do that again, but if somebody could be my main point of contact and just get me some updated copy,
Okay.
I'll hold that into your format, we'll do a little back and forth, make sure everybody is agreeing on the verbiage, and then we'll get that out in the upcoming bill, which is going out in a little over 2 weeks. But we do need to move this process forward. Get out.
And last year was a little heavier with that because we didn't have format.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep some consistent formatting for the most part and just putting in the new data.
Well,
For everyone who wants it.
and where the financial audit report, that would come from
Yes,
them, okay, and water quality report would come from,
we'll get the latest.
okay, and the water side, so none of that do we need to worry about, just 1, 2, 3, and 4.
That's right.
Okay, gotcha.
You'll accept that responsibility?
Dale's got it. He's on it.
Okay,
Both of them.
okay. Very good.
Mhm.
Do it again and I'll work with you.
And it's your baby now, I'm telling you. I give you the
We've
benefit of
got
all
that,
my
we've got that
expertise, Dale.
decided then. Good.
Dale, I'll,
Welcome to the swamp,
Don't have to
Dale.
worry about the format anymore. It's already
What's
set.
Something to talk about.
Phil and Ben's already there.
I'll email you a digital copy of this. You can redline that or send me your notes however you like.
Excellent. Thank
Am
you.
I sending that to your MUD email?
I was just looking at that. Let me give you another one too.
Okay, I'll give it you.
Yeah.
Finally, just real quick, wanted to make sure you saw the flyer in front of you.
This
Gulf Coast Water Conservation Symposium coming up. Paul Nelson, your fellow director in Galveston area, Galveston Sites District, coordinates this. Dr. Robert Mace is the keynote this year. Should be an excellent spend of time, so consider that.
If you're unfamiliar with Dr. Mace, he's excellent. He takes any topic and makes it enjoyable to listen to, and he's pretty good. He's very good speaker.
And to add on the PPC meeting, Halloway reviewed a bunch of content and how we do things and how we're communicating. And they've developed an assessment, drafts assessment on that with some recommendations on how to move forward. That's under review right now. And we'll be meeting with them here in the next few weeks to go into more detail on that. And then develop the campaign or some more documents.
And actually, one more thing, I apologize. The approved new strategic plan, communication strategic plan, follows in your packet there. That was approved by the BOT last Wednesday. It does, in its basic construct, follow previous year's strategic plan. Primary change or update would be a heavier emphasis on infrastructure.
Last thing, heavier what?
Yes, we could,
Emphasis.
On what? What was your last?
Infrastructure renewal.
infrastructure renewal.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Very good report. Okay, that's the end, concludes the general manager's report. Okay, move to agenda item 25, the Woodlands trustees report. Pages 77 and 78, both general manager Peterson and myself attended. We'll be happy to answer any questions that may have arisen from your review of that report. There's no further need for discussion on that. We'll move to agenda item 26. Is there any need to go to special session, Brian? Therefore, there's no need to reconvene. How about, it just occurred to me that discuss matters for placement on future agenda, this year-end report will have to be generated before we meet again. So will there be an opportunity to review that?
Yes.
There will be. Okay, great.
Yeah, well, this several districts, because it was new, kind of had a number of I think the last one went out in June, so it was all scattered across all the districts. We're trying to bring it up in January to get everybody kind of on the same path. And so my expectation is that we will bring back the draft once constructed next month, and then you can.
Oh, okay, so we will have it on the, as opposed to an independent report prior to the meeting?
Yeah, I don't mind bringing it to you next month.
Okay, so there's nothing at this time that says it has to go out in January.
No.
We'll go out in February, be
So
fine.
we can,
Okay,
we need to have it on the agenda, then we're gonna review it in here.
right.
Correct. That would be my proposal.
Okay, we'll put that, if you'd be so kind as to put that on our February agenda. Anybody else have anything to add to the topic to add for future placement on our agenda? Hearing none, I'll move this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.